Hey everybody, how we doing on this Monday? Gonna wait for a little bit, let everybody figure out I'm live and come join us. Liana, there you are. How was work today? Noah, Jory, hey, good to see you, Jory. Glad to see you guys had fun at FCA motocross camp last week. That's pretty cool. I didn't get to work it this year because I was in New Orleans, but I had the invite. I just didn't work out on my schedule. How's everybody doing? Hey, Jory, when are you guys going to come ride with us again? Claw, there you are. Claw, I hope you have better reception tonight. Whew, waking up here. I took my nap because I'll be Ubering after our session tonight, so I still look a little sleepy, so I apologize for that. Sweating, shaving ice. Yeah. Hey, Lauren, what's up? All right, guys, we've got enough. I'm ready to go. What? That's 5. What I want to talk about tonight is lowering your bike, and it's not about how to lower your bike. That's not my department. That's other people's department, not mine. What I want to talk about is why, when, how much. Because one of the things I've run into over the years is that most women, because they started riding later in life, feel that they have to touch the ground. Well, I've been saying for over 30 years, touching the ground is overrated. Because I haven't touched the ground since 1985. I think, when I got my KTM, my first 125. And at the time, it was the tallest bike on the market for 125s. And so my dad and Les Stoltz, the only KTM dealer in the area at the time, basically took my forks and raised them as high as they could in the clamps. And that actually is one way to lower your bike. You got to be careful when you do that, though, because it does change the turning ability of the bike quite a bit. So they didn't tell me they did this. You know, I was 20, 21. My dad said, here's your new bike. This is what you're going to ride. I said, okay, sounds good to me. And so I rode it. I didn't know any better. So what they did gradually, they did nothing to the linkage, to the shock or any of that kind of stuff. So what they gradually did is they gradually lowered the forks back down out of the triple clamps. Never telling me, you know, they didn't think I needed to know. So until the last lowering was not just a smidge or a scotch, it was probably 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, something like that. I don't even know. But whatever it was that they did, it was so drastic that I went out on a practice lap. And I kept falling because the bike all of a sudden is turning very sharply and turning the way it was originally meant to turn. And I came back madder than a wet hen over it, yelling at my dad, and he and Les are giggling about it. And then they finally tell me what they did. And I'm like, don't you think I should have known that? Like, nah, you're fine. So that's a very old school, inexpensive, obviously, way to lower your bike. But again, when you do that, your front and rear are no longer working together. Now it's cattywampus, as we like to say in the South. So anyway, there are lots of ways to lower a bike, but I digress. I'm getting ahead of myself. Talking about why do we lower? Why do we have to touch the ground? Y'all, I haven't flat-footed a bike since 1983 when I rode a CR80. And yeah, I had the advantage of being young, dumb, and stupid. I didn't know any better. Dad said ride it, so I did. So I had no preconceived notions. I had no preconceived fears. It was like, oh, Dad said ride it. I'll go ride it. So I really didn't know any better. And, you know, sometimes, y'all, ignorance really is bliss because I just rode. Yeah, I've run into problems. I have put my foot out when I've stopped, like at a bottleneck or something, and just fell right on over because there was nothing for my foot to touch. I've run into that. It happens. So what? So now when I stop, I tend to totally lean off to one side or the other. If you ever see me on the starting line, most of the time I'm not sitting on my bike. I'm standing next to it because I'm waiting, because I can only barely, these are my toes, so to speak, tippy toe. That's about all I get is tippy toe. 1 foot, by the way. I can't even do 2. I have a starting block that I use. And so you only have to touch the ground when you start and stop, y'all. The rest of the time you don't. So that's one of the things I want to talk about before we talk about lowering bikes. Because a lot of it's right here. And that's the one thing I think it's frustrated me in talking to new women riders, is they have completely convinced themselves that they have to touch the ground. Why? Think about that. You only need it when you start and stop. Hey, there's my boy PJ. Good to see you, young man. So, and I know that's a really hard psychological thing to get over, but it's something we got to work on, because if you are convincing yourself that your bike has to be lowered, you're giving up its handling abilities, the way it was really meant to be ridden and handle. And you could ride so much better with a bike that handles correctly. So that's one of the things I want to talk about, is why do you have to lower it? We lowered my Sherco 1/2 inch. I asked for 1/4 inch. I got a 1/2 inch. And that's very, very tiny in the grand scheme of things. And because it was the most that we could lower it without directly affecting handling ability. So that's one thing I want you to think about right now, is if you are so convinced that you have to touch the ground and you're going to put a lowering link in, or you're going to do something else, a different way to lower your bike, what are you giving up just to be able to touch the ground? And that's the most important thing, because when you lower a bike, you give up handling, you give up turning, you give up how the suspension works correctly and completely through the full stroke that it was designed to work through. So that's something you really got to consider, is what am I giving up by lowering my bike? And I know there are people, y'all, I'm too tall for a CRF 150. And I'm not even 5'4" anymore. I've shrunk. I'm about 5'3.5". And you sat on my Sherco claw. You like it? So I'm too tall for the CRF 150 R, even the R model. It's a small bike on a small bike chassis. If you get on a full-size bike, a 125 or bigger, then if you're going to lower it, you need to lower it the least amount possible. So, because otherwise, in my opinion, you're giving up way too much in handling, and that no amount of adjusting your suspension is ever going to make it work completely right, because by lowering it, you've taken away options. And my riding philosophy is always about options. Keep your feet on the pegs as much as possible. Options. If your feet are off the pegs, you've lost all options and you're at the mercy of your unweighted rear spring bouncing you around. Keep your feet on the pegs. If you got to put a foot out, put one, not both. You know, things like that. So again, with lowering your bike, it's about options and give and take. What are you willing to give to get what you want? And is it worth it in the long run? There are some tracks, especially in off-road, where it's a really, really rough track, and then there's one section of sand. Do I set my suspension to deal with that one section of sand that's the briefest part of the track? Or do I set my suspension to deal with the majority of the track, which is really rough and rocky and gnarly? Give and take. So that's one of the things I really want to focus on here. Why are you going to lower your bike? And for me, again, the only reason we lowered mine is because I couldn't even get this much down. And I was teeter-tottering and I couldn't go anywhere. And really, I just asked for 1/4 inch. And I got a 1/2 inch, which, you know, makes all the difference because I couldn't get out of camp without falling over. So that's when you lower your bike. but the least amount possible so that you give up the least amount of options while you're riding. No, Lauren, you are too tall for a CRF-150. Yeah, they were crazy. Yeah, I feel like a giant. The thing about those things is the CRF-150Rs, they're cute. I mean, they got a hell of a motor, you know, fun to ride, but you can't stand up and ride properly when you need to. You can only sit, and even I feel like my knees are up in my chin, and that's bad, because we all know I'm short. I ain't got no legs. So, JC, what up, sister? Good to see you. So lowering your bike, there are lots of things that you can do. Like I said, pushing your forks up into the clamps, you can do that. Just be careful about that. That's one way. You don't spend any money. It does affect the way your bike handles, but to begin with, to get used to the bike, that's a very, very cheap, simple, easy option. Totally reversible, because all you do is loosen the clamp bolts and slide those forks back and forth to where you want them to be. But keep in mind, anytime you do anything like that, you will affect the way the bike handles. So that's something always to keep in mind with any type of lowering process that you're going to use. Yep. People fall into doing this maybe. Yeah, Liana, they do. Really, and the thing about little bikes, the bigger you are, the more you can hurt yourself, because, you know, one wick of the throttle and you're doing a ground loop and you're on your back. And the other thing is, putting people on small bikes to begin with gives them a really false sense of security. So when they go to a bigger bike, to a full-size bike, it scares the snot out of them, and they refuse. They won't ride it. They think it's too tall. You know, I have a couple of expert friends that won't ride my bike because they think it's too tall. It's too tall when you start and stop. The height does not affect the handling. And that's the one thing I want to get across to people as far as the mental aspect here is, it only matters when you start and stop. And that's easy. Well, I don't know about easy, but you learn to adjust to that. My riding style is completely adjusted to the fact that I am short, I have no legs, and that I have some injuries, my knees and my lower back. So I've adapted things for self-preservation and because I'm short. Yeah. Yeah, JC, you're way too tall for a 150 as well. Got the lowering link, but I never installed it. Yeah, and Lauren, that's okay to push up your forks a little bit. That's a trick we all use. So the big thing about if you do push your forks up like that is recheck your sag and your travel. And make sure that when you push on the bike, make sure that the front end and back end are going down evenly and not like this, like a seesaw or a wave, because that will definitely affect the way the bike handles and the way it tracks. It won't track straight. And y'all, when the back end is out of line with the front end's this and the back end's doing like this, that's bad news, motocross or single track. So you want to make sure that the bike is tracking straight, going up and down together. So any adjustments you make like that, definitely, you check your sag, and then also check and make sure that the suspension is working together. That's really, really important because it'll hurt you. It could hurt you otherwise, especially if you start picking up speed and you're going through whoops and stuff like that. Yeah, that could be bad. So girl in pink, what's up, sisters? Good to see you. We all need to go riding again. So the point I really want to emphasize here on lowering your bike, why are you doing it? How much are you going to do it? Do you really have to have both feet down? And y'all, I have really close friends that are completely convinced they got to have both feet down. And it's going to take them, and nobody else can convince them. They're going to have to convince themselves. So, and like I said, my, let me see, was it my '03? My '03 YZ 125. It was super tall, and we didn't lower it yet. I just bought it. Y'all, I fell trying to get out of camp because it was so tall, and I couldn't dab my foot to let the clutch out and get riding, and it was like, so yeah, we lowered that one. But again, how much you lower it is also important too. If you're gonna lower it, the least amount possible is the best way to go. And from there, before you lower it, talk to suspension guys who know what they're doing and ask for all the options. Some options are permanent and you cannot undo them. Other options are not permanent, to where if you want to sell the bike or you don't want it lowered anymore, you can simply reverse what you've done. So there are different ways to do it, and a good suspension guy will be happy to explain to you all your options. And of course, all the options, the price is going to vary. But if your suspension guy, his only option is cut the springs, find somebody else. There are different ways to lower a bike. Cutting springs is a very permanent thing, and if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a bad thing. So talk to a suspension guy who has multiple options, multiple prices for you. Also, a suspension guy who listens to you as a rider and says, okay, what kind of a rider are you? Are you cross-country, off-road, trials, motocross? But more importantly, are you a stand-up rider? Are you a sit-down rider? What is your riding style? A good suspension guy is going to ask those questions and take all of that into account before giving you any options at all. So that's something else that's, that you really need to check into. Do your homework diligently if, in fact, you are going to lower your bike. And pay the money to have a professional do it. There are some things that you can watch videos on YouTube for. There are some really talented mechanics who put stuff on YouTube for you to watch and, how to. Yeah, that's cool. Lowering your suspension is not one that I would suggest. I know there are shops that don't have a suspension guy working in-house for them, so they send any suspension jobs out to local suspension tuners. And I totally respect that, because I don't do any of my suspension, y'all. I will tear my bike apart. I will take the suspension components off, and that's where I stop. Well, as far as the forks go, I take them off, that's it. I'm not busting into them. Screwing up your forks is too expensive. I can take my linkage apart and clean it, take all the bearings out, repack it and all that kind of stuff, but that's it. That is a special knowledge that not all mechanics have. So if you are seriously looking about lowering your bike, talk to a couple of different suspension tuners. Doesn't matter if they're across country, across the country, because hopefully they'll be patient enough to talk with you on the phone and make it a phone conversation. That way you can ask questions immediately when they answer something and you don't understand. They can continue to explain it. Emails and texting, it gets a little tedious in trying to understand this kind of thing. So definitely, to me, if you're going to lower your suspension, it's worth paying an expert to do it. And y'all, everybody ships. There's nothing wrong with shipping your components to your tuner. So that's always an option. If you can't find a tuner who lives nearby you, y'all, we have people who live on the other side of Dallas, and they just don't want to drive over here to the other side of near Fort Worth. They ship their components. Not a problem. You just make sure you insure and track it. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. The big thing is, why are you going to lower it? Do you really need to? How much are you going to lower it? And yeah, I have a lowered bike, 1/2 inch. That's it. Because any more than that, then you get into affecting the way the bike handles, and that's not worth giving up. Hey, how you doing, Miss Stephanie? By the way, y'all, congratulate Stephanie. She got her staples out, and she did her first PT session today. And how long is it going to be before we're walking, Steph? Oh, that's awesome, JC. Now you got him 30 minutes away. Sweet. Suspension tuner in the house. So anyway, that's pretty much what I've got. 3 more weeks and then Stephanie gets to walk again, which means you should be ready for Gutbuster 24 in 2020, right? We'll be ready to go by then. If it's in June, we got a year. We'll be good. Anyway, guys, that's it's not very much, but the big thing about lowering your bike is really, do you have to? And for me, it's the least amount possible. Because really, like I've said, touching the ground is overrated. You only got to do it when you start and stop. I've said it several times. I'm just repeating myself now. So that's how I feel about lowering bikes. The less you do it, the better. And, you know, the other thing is ask to ride some bikes that have been lowered. And, y'all, if you're even 5'4", I think you're too tall for a CRF 150. Just plain and simple. Because, I mean, it may fit you when you're sitting, but when you stand, it's really an awkward thing because the frame is so small. It's a small bike frame. And where the pegs are on the frame, it's kind of awkward and uncomfortable standing on the CRF 150. Just my opinion. But it's also my experience. I've ridden them. So I'm not just talking out the side of my face on that one. But anyway, who's got questions? Anybody got questions for me or comments or thoughts? Because, you know, I'm just here. Braxton, dude. What's up? Maddie, y'all, look at y'all joining live. Okay, so, it was hard to ride the CRF one. Yep. And Shannon about their lowered suspension. Yep. The CRF 125 and the 250 frames are the same. The CRF 125, they may be the same, but it's not a racing bike, I'm going to guess. Are you talking the CRF 150? Because I don't believe there's a CRF 125. So, hey, Maddie, I miss you too. North Texas Sasquatch, what's up? The 230. Yeah, there you go. So, in lowering a bike, I'm going to briefly recap because so many people have just joined in. The things you want to consider, number one, the first question is why? Why are you lowering the bike? What's the point? Yes, Village Thursday, Maddie, but we shouldn't say that because it rains every time we do. And how much are you going to lower it? Is it really necessary? The other thing is, you know, y'all, all I get is about this much of my toe. This is my foot. That's about all I get, even with the bike lowered. But that's all you need, really and truly. And you have to get past that mental block of, I have to touch the ground. Yeah, low profile seat. Thank you, Steph. I wasn't even going there tonight. But yes, you can get a low profile seat to help you be able to touch the ground more and not do much to your suspension. You are exactly right. Thanks for bringing that up. So, but the other thing is, keep in mind when you do lower your suspension, you are giving up handling. If a man of painter can ride a full-size bike, anyone can. Amen to that. And start it in one kick, too. The other thing is, how are you going to lower it? Because some of the ways to lower a bike are permanent and you can't reverse them without spending a lot of money. So, y'all, my opinion is if you got to lower it the least amount possible, which is what we've done with mine. My Sherco, my 2019 Sherco, we lowered 1/2 inch. That's it. No lowering link. As far as the technical part of it, you'd have to talk to Joe, Cycle Suspension, my husband, because he's the one who lowered it. And I kind of zone out when he starts explaining that stuff. Sorry. But the other thing, another option is always raising the forks and the clamps and then gradually lowering them until your rider gets used to it. I do love the idea of the low profile seat. That's always an excellent idea. The other thing that's really important to keep in mind when you lower is to make sure that the bike is still traveling together the front and rear are working together, not cattywampus like a seesaw. That would be bad. So anyway, that's, it's really, I don't have a whole lot. I really wanted to talk about more the mental aspect of, I have a starting block. Yes, definitely. The mental aspect of having your bike lowered or being able to touch the ground rather. And really in motocross, it doesn't come up as much, but it really comes up in single track and off-road, cross country. Sometimes you have to stop and look at an obstacle before you attempt it and things like that. So being short-legged, I've adapted. I learned to adapt and things like that. So with air forks, you can run lower pressure. Yeah, when you need to adjust. That's what Rob does when I need to tippy-toe in the mud. I love tippy-toe. It's such a technical term, but it works for everything. So that's really how I feel about lowering. I'm not opposed to it at all. Not at all. But you don't have to touch flat-footed. Lower it just enough so that you've got, for me, y'all, I get a tippy toe. That's it. I don't get both. I just get one. And I'm happy with that. But, those are things to work on, because when you put softer springs in a bike, oh, y'all, as you get faster, you'll regret the softer springs because the suspension will not handle the way it's supposed to, especially in rough track conditions or sand and mud. So, that's why I really urge you, if you really bound and determined that you really got to lower your bike, talk to some suspension tuners. The ones who will take the time to answer your questions, those are the ones you want to work with. And the ones that have multiple options and can explain all your options to you, those are the ones you want to work with. Doesn't matter how far away they are. Like I said, you can always ship your components. The big thing is their knowledge and being able to say, yes, I can do that for you, but this is what will happen. That's the kind of guy you want. Not just, oh yeah, I'll do it. I'll charge you $600. Yeah, I'll lower it. Flat out. You want a really knowledgeable tuner who can answer all your questions and also explain to you the pros and cons of what you're asking them to do. That's extremely, extremely important, and I'm going to keep emphasizing that a lot. Other than that, it's kind of quiet right now, not getting to ride. We got rained out of Village last Thursday, so hopefully Maddie and I can ride this Thursday and get some seat time in. And I will admit I don't like motocross, but I will go ride it because it's good to ride out of your comfort zone. It also helps you learn to ride your bike better. Your Papa's 125 that has been lowered, and I can definitely tell the difference when I ride my dad's that hasn't been. Probably going to reset mine. Hey, PJ, what year is your dad's bike? Is that the one he bought from me? And if it is, it was lowered just a tad. And also, because you want to hang, yes, I do want to hang out with you, Maddie. You know I want to hang out with you. Night practice, JC, I'm sorry. You might have to drive a little bit for that one. You did move to Arkansas. Just saying. That was your choice. But I love you anyway. So right now with the summer heat, yeah, everybody's braking. Most of the motocrosses are running night series because of the heat and whatnot. That's all I've got for right now. Not much of nothing else going on. And anybody got any questions, comments? Better yet, what else would you like me to talk about? Because it took me a while to come up with this topic. I'm mostly talking about things that I've personally experienced. Oh, yeah. Your Papa's bike was way lowered, like super lowered, because he's actually shorter than I am, which, that's a lot. But, yeah, there's a big difference between the two bikes, your Papa's and your dad's. I know what you're talking about, PJ. Anyway, I would really love to hear from you guys, and tag me when you post stuff. Tag the Jackalope13 and let us know when Let me know when you're, I'm reading, sorry guys. Let me know when you post stuff and tag me in it, because y'all, I don't always see everybody's posts, and I definitely want to like what you're doing. I'll think of some more topics and send them to you. Thank you, Claw. Coming back from injury. Sylvia! Hey, Sylvia. Okay, I'm going to hang on for a while because I got some other people popping in. Coming back from injury. Yeah, Steph, that one's critical. And you've already done this once when you broke your femur. So coming back from injury. Mental attitude and relying on everybody around you to help pick you up on the bad days and letting people pick you up. You know, texting people like me and saying, hey, I'm having a bad day. You know, I'm good for sending a stupid GIF or meme or whatever. Or I will call you in a heartbeat. I've been known to pick up the phone and call people. Mental and physical. I can talk about that right now since we're all on. Might as well. I'll tell you though, having your bike lowered can really help. Yes, Claw, it can. You just don't want to overdo the lowering of the bike. I agree with lowering it, but I guess I need to really point out, my whole point is you don't have to stand flat-footed with both feet to still have a good handling bike. You can lower it, but, you know, do you have to be flat-footed? No, you don't. And that's something you get, you know, you adapt to and get used to. Mental and physical, overcoming topic, safety of racing versus wanting the points. Oh boy, PJ, you're touching on. Yeah, you know what? Okay. Hey, text me, or better yet, direct DM me on Instagram on my Jackalope. DM me your ideas, guys, because I will forget. Because I don't have anything to write with right now, so I'm gonna struggle every day with it. It's tough, but yes, conditions, physical health, etc. Yep. Yeah, and it probably just wasn't lowered. I'm not gonna say anything about whoever lowered it. Okay, it just maybe wasn't lowered the right way for you. You know, that's why I'm saying when you talk to a guy that's a suspension tuner, you want somebody with lots of experience and lots of options and can explain each option to you in detail. And also, like I said, pros and cons. What do I get for this lowering, but what am I giving up? Because that's something that Joe always talks to me about when I come back from a practice lap and I say, hey, should we turn some of the clickers? And he'll say, okay, what's it doing? And I'll explain. And then he'll go, all right, if I do this, you're going to have this in this section of the track, but you're going to lose over here. So which section, which type of terrain adjustment is more important to you? So that's something that's very, very important to always take into consideration. Just real briefly, because it's out here right now, let's talk about recovering from injuries. Let's talk about it because it's really important, and it's the mindset. A lot of what we do, y'all, it's the mental mindset. Not just focus, but not letting the little demons chew at the back of your head saying, oh, you're not going to get over this. You won't be able to ride after this. You got to shut those voices down immediately. And when they do start creeping in, call on your friends and family. I'm going to say call on your dirt sisters. I love my connection with the girls who ride. We have a group chat where all we talk about dirt bikes and we talk about fixing things. And Megan blew her bike up, so we're talking about that and, you know, various things. So you've got to call on your network of support. I also have my torn dirt sisters that I rely on for both dirt bike and non-dirt bike related stuff. So coming back from injury, we've all done it. We've all had to, and I will tell you, I really think the mental side of coming back from an injury is way tougher than the physical side. I mean, Stephanie, yeah, you're coming back from some serious business there with the hardware and everything you've got in there. So you definitely have to pay attention to the doctor and your therapist's instructions, because you may be feeling good, but everything hasn't finished healing, so the strength isn't there. And the musculature to provide the strength isn't there. So you can re-injure as bad, if not worse, if you don't pay attention to the doctor's instructions. And taking it easy. You've got to listen to the doctor, because your heart is going to tell you, we can ride. No, no. Be patient. Remember, we want to live to ride another day, and sometimes that means you can't ride right now. You got to wait and be patient. So coming back from an injury, do what the doctor tells you to do. Listen to your body. It's hurting for a reason. So, don't overdo. And be patient. Good grief. And that's the hardest thing. And when you're not patient, call on your friends and family. Without friends and family, there's so many things I would not be able to get through. So, yeah. No, Steph, we're not racing for the rest of the year. You can fight me on it and we'll argue about it later. But let's be patient. Let's get you healed so that you can come back strong. I mean, yeah, maybe putt around the backyard and that's it, okay? Yes, yeah, you have to know when you're fatigued or limited physically to prevent mistakes and crashes, yes. Yeah, because when you get tired, you lose focus and, your body starts moving a little bit slower and you react a little bit slower, and that's when you make mistakes. And so knowing when it's time to say, okay, let's take a break, or I'm done. That's like a couple of weeks ago when I had all the stomach cramps during the race, and I kept pushing, and it hurt so bad I couldn't take it. And I just had to slow way down and just finish the last lap because I wanted to live to ride another day. So knowing your limits, paying attention to your body. Yeah, the Iceman's going. Yeah, paying attention to your body is so important, because y'all, our heart wants to race. That's what we love. It's our passion. But sometimes you've got to listen to the logical side that says, maybe not today. And I talked about that, where the days where I've just had horrible days where, I couldn't ride practice without falling 5 or 6 times for no good reason. Those are the days where you have to step back and take an objective look and say, today's not a good day. And then, like I did that one time, I chose not to race the next day because I knew I was going to get hurt because my focus wasn't there and I just couldn't do it. That's not quitting. To me, that's being smart and living to ride another day. Y'all, there's always going to be a race somewhere. There's always going to be an event somewhere. And it's just a trophy. I know. Heaven forbid I say that. It is. It's just a trophy. It's just a t-shirt. And there's always going to be, another time to ride. It's not worth sacrificing everything because you didn't listen to your body. Yes, from work or other stuff, yes. If your head's not in it, I shouldn't ride. You're right, Lauren. And that's when you really, you got to respect what we do. It's freaking dangerous. And so if you aren't there mentally, you're asking for bad things to happen. And that's another important aspect of being a good rider, is knowing when to say, no, not today. Can't do it today. A couple of weeks ago, Joe got overheated on Saturday and actually passed out, and then he wanted to race on Sunday, and we were like, no, you have no business being on the bike again in all the heat from what your body has been through. It hadn't recovered yet. And he's like, I feel fine. So, till you get all your gear on and get out there in the heat. So, sometimes you have to deny yourself that urge to ride. And it killed her energy level and her ability to push. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yes. Not being hydrated at practice. Maddie, we've talked about this. Did you give up all those Dr. Peppers, Maddie? You got to be hydrated. If you're going to seriously ride every week, then you got to stay hydrated. And you got to stay away from the sodas and a lot of the sugary drinks. But you also have to be able to say, hey, wow, I don't have it today. It was fun, but we got to pack it up and go. It's the way it is. I mean, everything that I do now is based on I want to live to ride another day. So back in the day, y'all, yeah, I rode with the worst food poisoning ever. Was it a smart thing? Probably not. I rode with torn stomach muscles. I've ridden with knee injuries and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I've done it. Now, now it's just a question of, you know, do I want to ride again tomorrow? So I try to keep that in my focus. But, JC, very good. Excellent. Yeah, everybody loves Dr. Pepper, but me. Maddie, maybe. We'll talk about that on Thursday. But anyway, so yeah, guys, you know, do your homework in lowering your bike. It's just like when you're going to buy a bike or change tires, go to a different brand. Y'all, you can read all the reviews you want online. The best thing is go to people you know and trust who ride and ask them questions. That's how you figure out whether you want something or not, whether it's going to be good, rather. Get the opinions of your fellow riders. They're going to tell you the truth. And that's, to me, that's who I trust. That's my research. I go to people I know and I talk to them. And I take into consideration who they are and how they ride. And then I apply it to what I'm trying to do. So it doesn't hurt to ask for people's advice and input. They don't have to know whether you took their advice or not. I'm laughing at you, Maddie. But anyway, guys, I'm really enjoying doing the lives with you, and I love your messages when you holler at me and give me feedback and stuff like that. That means a lot to me. So help me out with what you want me to talk about. And Stephanie, I'm going to give some more thought to recovering from an injury. And because that one was, you know, I was just kind of shooting from the hip on that. And I'm also, I think, you know, because I can have some people kind of pop in and join the live. Might be bringing in some people to talk to you guys so that we can have kind of an interview, share a conversation about different things. So if you guys don't have any other questions, because I'm kind of out of information, ride different bikes if you know people, yes, who will let you. I did that for about 6 months before I bought the last one. That's right. Ask people. That's what Joe is in that process right now. We're trying to figure out if he's going to get a 252 stroke or a 254 stroke. Let's hope he doesn't go with the 454 stroke because those are beasts. I really don't want him on one. But anyway, yes, ask to ride people's bikes. Definitely. Get input from other riders because that's your best source of information as far as I'm concerned. Those are your best reviews, is people you know and their personal experiences. So other than that, I kind of don't have just a whole heck of a lot left. Just really wanted to emphasize that, you know, a lot of touching the ground is a mental aspect. And I know it's hard to let go of that idea. But it's kind of like going down that first steep, gnarly downhill for the first time and convincing yourself that you can do it. Got to get over that fear and let go of it and realize, hey, all you need to do is tippy-toe at the start and a stop, and that's it. So, yeah, me too, Claw. I really don't want him on that 450. You know, other than that, tag me. Let me know how things are going with riding and stuff. I love to see your pictures, and I love to see your updates and all that. And I got nothing else right now. Maybe he hasn't told you that yet. What, that he did? Oh, yeah, he has. We've talked about it. But it keeps popping back in his brain. That's what bothers me. He keeps kind of going back to it. It's okay, though. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you tonight. So, can I ride Joe's XR80? That thing is... you're going to have to ask Joe. That was his birthday present. So, you're going to have to ask his permission. I can't give on that one. That's his sweet ride. I bet he says yes, though. Oh, dear Lord, Maddie. Okay. All right. You go ride that 250. I am riding a 250. I must stick with my weed whacking 125. But you go, girl. Because if Amanda Painter can do it, so can you. I need to introduce y'all. All right, guys. I'm going to be out because I'm going to go Uber here in a little bit. But thanks, y'all, for checking in with me and coming back every Monday night. And live to ride another day, guys. Any day we get to ride is a good day. I love y'all, and thanks very much. Catch you next time, all right? Bye, guys.